Okay, so for this lesson and for 8-2, we are using our calculator, and your calculator must be in degrees. Remember, whenever you reset your graphing calculator, the default is radians, so you always have to hit that mode button and put it back in degrees. So last year in geometry, you should have learned how to solve right triangles by using sine, cosine, and tangent. Whenever we did that and solved the right triangles, and we did that this year as well, they were always only right triangles. Now we have two techniques. When the triangle is not a right triangle, it's called an oblique triangle, non-right. We're going to be using the law of sines and the law of cosines. So this law of sines and cosines will solve any type of triangle, not just a right triangle. So if you remember back to your proving triangles congruent, those wonderful 5 shortcuts, that's what these acronyms stand for. The AAS stands for angle, angle, side. The ASA stands for angle, side, angle. And then the SSA stands for side, side, angle. If you remember back to your geometry days, there was not a shortcut called SSA or ASS, but this is what we're going to see when we're doing the law of sines. So for this one, you're going to be given 2 angles and any one of the sides, and then one side. For this scenario, notice the S is in the middle of the capital A's, so this must be 2 angles, and the side that's given must be the included side because it's in between the 2 angles. So it's going to be the side that'll be in between the 2 angles that are given. And then the last scenario, this SSA or ASS, it's just going to be 2 sides and an angle that is opposite one of the sides that are given. So an angle opposite one of your sides that's given. You don't necessarily need to know this. You're just going to see what's going to happen. Now, next week, when we cover law of cosines, which is going to be 8.2, the scenario you're going to have for that one is going to be SSS, where you're going to be given all 3 sides, or SAS, where you're going to be given 2 sides and the included angle. So this will be the scenario you'll have for law of cosines. What we're going to be doing is creating proportions. Now, it's going to be very important that when you draw your triangle, you're not going to probably be given pictures. You will have to draw them yourself. It doesn't matter where you put the angles. It's important that you label the sides appropriately. So if I put angle A here, and I'm going to use capital letters for my angles, and then the sides will be the lowercase letters, and I need to label this with the lowercase letter A across from it, and that'll be the side that's opposite to angle A. Then the side opposite angle B will be the lowercase b, and then the side opposite to angle C will be lowercase c. When we go to do this, you're only going to be given 3 pieces of information. So when you go to set up your proportions, you might be given angle A, angle B, and side B. So you would only use those 2 ratios. Or maybe you're going to use B and C's information. So you're always only going to work with 3 of those. We're going to be creating proportions to solve. We could also, yes, you could also be given A and C's information. It doesn't have to be right next to each other. So let's go ahead and take a look at our first scenario. And I'm going to go ahead and draw a picture. So again, you will not be given a picture a lot of the time, so you'll have to draw it yourself. It really doesn't matter if you draw it to scale. Just go ahead and put your angles on here first, A, B, C. What's important is that you put the lowercase a across from angle A, the lowercase b across from angle B, and the lowercase c across from angle C. So what they gave me was angle C was 102. Obviously my triangle is not drawn to scale. I'm just trying to get a visual of where things are located. The next thing they gave me, and again I can tell these are angles because they have the degree symbol. They gave me angle B, it's 29 degrees. And then they gave me lowercase b, this side length, it's got a linear unit, it's feet, so this is the side length, 28 feet. Now, when you're given, so if you notice this one, they gave me a side over here, they gave me an angle, and they gave me an angle. Notice this S is not in between the two A's, so this scenario is going to be angle, angle, side. You don't need to know that, but that's how they come up with if the S is in the middle of the A's or not. So because it's not in between, it's not the lowercase a in between angle A and C, then I know that it's angle, angle, side. Now, I'm going to be using, when I'm given two angles, to find the missing third angle, I can use my triangle sum. And you should remember back from your geometry days, and even when we did the right triangles, that the three angles of a triangle always add up to be 180. So once I'm done, just like when we solved the right triangles, when I'm done, I should have the value of angle A, angle B, angle C. I already have angle C, it's 102. I already have angle B, it's 29. Now to find angle A, I'm going to add the two angles they gave me, and I get 131. And then I subtract that sum from 180, and my missing angle A is going to be 49 degrees. So when you're given two of the angles to find the missing third, you just add them and subtract from 180. Now to find the missing sides, this is where I'm going to be using my proportions. So I'm going to be looking for side A. They gave me side B, 28 feet, and I'm also going to look for side C. Now, these are not right triangles. We can't do any kind of Pythagorean theorem here. We have to use the proportions. So now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to look to see, and always when you're doing the proportions, try to always use the given. Try not to use a calculated number. So when I go to set up my first proportion, I'm going to go ahead and set up and find this side C first. I'm going to use my given because right now if I use angle A to find C, I might have made a mistake when I added and subtracted. So try to always use the given when you can. So the proportion that I'm going to be setting up to solve this, I'm going to do side B over sine of B is equal to side C over the sine of C. I'm going to fill it in. They gave me B from the beginning, little b. They gave me angle B from the beginning, 29 degrees. And then I don't know C, but I know angle C. It's 102. So now what we're going to do is solve the proportion. We're going to cross multiply. So you're going to multiply the sine of 29 times C, and then 28 times the sine of 102. Do not round until the end. So you need to be keeping the long numbers on your calculator in order to get the correct answers on WebAssign. So once I cross multiply, I get sine of 29 times C is equal to the sine of 102 times 28. Then in order to solve this, I'm going to divide both sides by the sine of 29. And you can do this on continuous in your calculator. I would definitely either get this product, hit enter, and then do divided by sine of 29, or use parentheses. So once you do this, you should be getting that side length C is equal to 56, and we're going to round to the nearest hundred, 56.49 feet. Now, this gave me a little c, so this is 56.49 feet. Now I have to work on finding the lowercase a. Now in this case, I'm going to be using the angle that I calculated, so just be certain that when you did that adding and subtracting of the triangle sum, that you didn't mess up, that your finger didn't slip. So the proportion to find little a is going to be side A over sine A equals, and I'm going to use the original given, the B, not my newly calculated number, over sine B. Because remember, little c was a rounded number. So you're better off going back and using the B information. So I'm solving for little a. I have angle A, that was 49. Lowercase b was given to me, 28. And angle B was given to me, 29. Now I'm going to cross multiply. And I'll multiply the two diagonals. And I end up getting the sine of 29 times A is equal to the sine of 49 times 28. And again, you'll get that long answer, leave it on your calculator, and then divide it by the sine of 29. Then we'll round this to the hundreds place, and this is going to give me 43.59 feet. And that's going to be the lowercase a. Now, if you remember back from your geometry days, and let me put it onto the triangle, remember that the biggest angle should be across from the biggest side. The smallest angle across from the smallest side. So let me go ahead and fill that in. So lowercase a was 43.59 and lowercase c was 56.49. Notice this 56 was across from the biggest angle. Then the smallest angle, the 29, had 28 across from it. And then angle A was 49, and it's across from the medium size side. So it makes sense. So when you're done, you should have all three angle pairs, or all three angles, and all three sides. Example 2. Again, solve the triangle. So let me go ahead and just draw a triangle here. And again, it doesn't matter how you draw it. CBA. They gave me angle A, it's 43. They gave me angle B, it's 98. And they gave me side length C, it's 22 feet. So remember, lowercase a is here, lowercase b is over here. So when I'm all done, I'm going to have angle A was given, angle B it was given. I need to find angle C. I'm going to use my triangle sum. I'm going to find side A, side B, and they gave me side C. So let's work on the angle. That's the easiest one first. Use your triangle sum. I'm going to add 43 plus 98. Get that sum and subtract it from 180. And my missing angle, C, is 39 degrees. Now I need to work on finding the missing two sides. And again, I'm going to use C's information for both of my proportions because that was my given. Always try to use the given. So in order to find A, I'm going to go ahead and use this along with C. And then when I go to find B, I'm going to use it with C as well. So I'm going to be doing for lowercase a over sine A is equal to lowercase c over the sine of C. Let's fill in our numbers. I don't know the side length of A, but I know the angle measure A is 43. My side length C was 22, and angle C was 39. I'm going to go ahead and cross multiply. I'm going to multiply the sine of 43 times 22 and the sine of 39 times a. So this will give me the sine of 39 times a is equal to the sine of 43 times 22. I'm going to divide both sides by the sine of 39. And again, keep the long numbers on your calculator. Do not round until the final step. So a is equal to 23.841, so 23.84, and these are feet. So that's lowercase a, 23.84. And now I'm going to do the same thing. Use the same proportion for the C. Use the C information, the 22 over the sine of 39. And then I'm going to do B's information, so the sine of 48. So this was B over sine of B and C over sine of C. That's what I filled in. And again, I'm going to do the cross products. So multiply sine of 48 and then the B times the sine of 39. So sine of, thank you. So I covered it up. This should be a 98. My blue line covered up the top of my 9. Thank you. All right, so we're going to do the sine of 39 times B equals the sine of 98 times 22. Divide both sides by the sine of 39. And then you get lowercase b is equal to 34.618, so 0.62. And these are feet. And that'll be lowercase b. Rounded to the hundredths place. Very important that you label your triangle appropriately. Now comes the tricky part. It's called the ambiguous case. So this is where we have that tricky scenario, the SSA or the ASS scenario, where the angle is not the included angle. So what'll happen here is once I start my calculations, I'm either gonna find that I'm gonna have no triangle at all. Once I try to do my first proportion, I'm gonna get an error on my calculator. Or I could have one triangle just like I did the last two examples, or there potentially could be a second triangle. And if you think about it, what we've been just doing with this trick, remember when we do our all students take calculus, there's two angles that give us the same answer. So this is why we potentially could have two triangles. So here are the steps that you can follow. But again, I'm just gonna walk you through. These steps will become automatic. So you can read through them or refer back to them if ever you get stuck. But when you have the no triangle scenario, this is where you're going to get an error on your calculator. And that means no triangle could be formed. The sides are either too short once you draw in that angle. And then again, if you have the SAS scenario where it's the included angle, this is going to be the 8.2 lesson. So when you draw your triangle, if you see that the angle is not the included angle, then you know it could be one of these three scenarios. So let's go ahead and I'm going to do one of each. I'm going to do one where you have one triangle, one where you have no triangle, and then the third scenario when you have two triangles. So let's try the first example. Again, I'm going to draw the triangle so I can see, do I have the ambiguous case or do I have the side angle side where I need to do law of cosines? So let me go ahead and draw the triangle. And again, it doesn't matter where you put the angles. What's important is where you're going to put the sides, because little a needs to go here, little c here, little b here. So they gave me the side length of A, which was 22 meters. They gave me the side length of B, it's 12 meters. And they gave me angle A, 42 degrees. Notice, if it were the included angle, they would have given me angle C. But because they gave me A, which is going to be one of the angles that's across from one of the given, this is going to be the ambiguous case. So let me go ahead and start looking for what we need to. Now, notice I don't have two angles. So when I go to do this on my calculator to find the missing angles, that's where we have to do the sine -1. We do the inverse. So let's go ahead and set up our first proportion. Let me go ahead and fill in what I'm looking for. So angle A, they gave me.
Why did you say it's the ambiguous case?
Ambiguous case because it's the SSA scenario, or you could say it's ASS. If that A would have been C, then it would have been side angle side, and you use law of cosines. So whenever they give you two sides, and one of the angles is across from one of the sides given, then that's going to be the ambiguous case. So I have angle A, I don't have B, I don't have C, and what I have is side A, side B, I don't have side C. So that's what I'm going to look for first. Actually, I could do first. So what I'm going to do first is I'm going to use this given information. So I'm going to set up my proportion, and I'm going to be doing A over sine A, B over sine B. So let me fill in. So I have side A, 22. I have angle A, I have side B, but I don't have angle B. So remember, when you're looking for an angle measure, after we do the cross products here, we're going to be using the second key, or the inverse. So we're going to go ahead and cross multiply. So I'm going to multiply the sine of 42 times 12 and 22 times the sine of B. So sine of B times 22 is equal to the sine of 42 times 12. I'm going to divide both sides by 22. Now, at this point, so what we're going to do is we would get sine of B, and you're going to leave the long number on your calculator. It's actually going to be 0.36498033307. What we're going to do here to get angle B, we do second and sine, so it opens up sine -1. Then you're going to put that decimal that you got after you divided sine of 42 times 12 divided by 22. You're going to put this long decimal in your calculator, and then we're going to round to the nearest hundred. So angle B is equal to 21.41 degrees, because you should be getting 21.406, and then it'll round to a 1. So this is angle B. So I'll come up here, and angle B is 21.41. Now, what we're going to do here is, this is going to be the information we're going to use to check to see if there is potentially a second triangle. But let me go ahead and just finish this one first. So in order to find angle C, I can go ahead and add the two angles I have now. So to get angle C, I'm going to add 42 plus 21.41. Once I add those, I get 63.41. And then now to get angle C, I subtract 180 minus 63.41. And angle C equals 116.59 degrees. Now that I have angle C, now I can find side C. You can't do Pythagorean theorem because that only works for right triangles. So now to find side C, I'm going to be setting up my proportion. I'm going to use the original given. So A over sine A, and then C over sine C. I'm going to use this newly calculated angle in my proportion. So 22 over the sine of 42 equals side C over the sine of 116.59. So now I'm going to cross multiply. And I end up getting the sine of 42 times C is equal to the sine of 116.59 times 22. Divide that by the sine of 42. We're looking for a side here. So all we're doing is doing this multiplication and division, no inverse, and I get 29.40 because I get 29.401, and these are meters. So notice I did not get an error on my calculator, so I know for sure I have one triangle. Now I have to do the check to see, is there a second triangle? And the way that you're going to do that is you're going to go back to this first angle you found. What I'm going to do is I'm going to subtract that angle from 180, so 21.41, and then I get 158.59. Now, if when I add this to my other given angle, if it stays under 180, then this is my second angle B. But if it goes over 180, there is not a second triangle. So I'm going to take 158.59 added to the given angle, the 42. Notice when I add this, I get 200.59. There's nothing left for a third angle. This is too big. Because remember, the three angles of a triangle need to add up to be 180. Soon as this number goes over 180, you're going to say, nope, there is no second triangle. It's only one. So you can either choose, as soon as you find that first angle, if you want to check to see if there's going to be a second one, you can. Or complete the first one, then go back and do the check. You only have to do this check for a second triangle when it's the SSA scenario. So there is no second triangle. This is the ambiguous case with only one triangle. For the next one, I'm going to go ahead and try to draw my triangle. So what's going to happen here is if I try to draw an 85-degree angle, it's not going to fit. Now, if you want to go ahead and just draw the whole triangle, you can, but it's actually not going to close up. So let's say they gave me, let's say I label this as A. So this is 15, this is 85, and then I can say that this is B and B, and this is C, and little c's here. So again, angle A, 85. Angle B, don't know. Angle C, don't know. Side A, side B. Side C, I don't know. So I'm going to look for angle B first, because that's going to be using my three pieces of given. So A over sine A equals B over sine B. So I'm going to go ahead and fill it in. 15 over sine of 85 equals 25 over the sine of B. Going to cross multiply. Do that product and this one. So once I cross multiply, I get the sine of B times 15 is equal to the sine of 85 times 25. Divide both sides by 15. Now remember, we're looking for an angle measure. So the sine of B, once I do this multiplication and division, I'm going to get 1.66 something. Remember, sine can't be bigger than 1. So when you go to do this, sine -1 on your calculator, you're going to get error. So this means no triangle can be formed with that given information. So as soon as you try to find that first missing angle, you get error on your calculator, you stop and say no triangle. All right, so for the second triangle, what we're gonna do is still the same thing. Let me go ahead and draw my triangle. And again, what's important is where you put the lowercase letters. So they gave me lowercase letter B, they gave me lowercase letter A, they gave me angle A, and I don't know angle C or angle B or side length C. So again, remember when we're done, angle A. Now I'm going to put little ones here because this is going to be from my first triangle. This one's going to give me two triangles. I could put little subscripts here if you want, or just say this is all the first triangle. So angle A, 20.5. Side length A is 12. Side length B is 31. So let's go ahead, and the first thing I'm going to look for is angle B, because I'm going to use the three pieces of information I have. So A over sine A, and then B over sine B. I'm looking for angle B first. So I'm going to fill in 12 over the sine of 20.5 equals 31 over the sine of B. I'm going to cross multiply. So I'll do this product times this one. So I end up getting the sine of B times 12 equals the sine of 20.5 times 31. I'm going to divide both sides by 12. And I get the sine of B is equal to 0.904702. Leave this long number on your calculator because remember, when we're looking for an angle, we have to do inverse with that number. So the 0.947024016. Once we do this and round it to the hundreds place, angle B is 64.78 degrees. Now, this is my first angle B, and what I can do here now is finish up this triangle. Then I'll go back and remember this first angle you found, this is going to be what we need to use to check for the second triangle. So for angle C, I'm going to be doing, again, another proportion. So A over sine A equals, actually for side C. Let me find angle C first, but this will be the proportion for side C. So remember, to find angle C, we're going to take the angle we just found, add it to the one they gave us, and then subtract that from 180. So 20.5 plus 64.78 gives me 84.28. Subtract that from 180. And my angle C is equal to 94.72. So this is angle C. Now that's what I'm going to use in my proportion there. So 94.72 degrees. So now I'm going to do the given. So 12 over the sine of 20.5 is equal to my unknown side over the sine of 94.72. Cross multiply. Do these cross products. And then now I'm going to get the sine of 20.5 times C equals the sine of 94.72 times 12. Divide both sides by the sine of 20.5. And I get side length C is equal to 34.149, so 34.15 meters. This has now completed my first triangle. Now I got to go back and do the check to see if there's a second triangle. So now this is where I'm going to take this angle B that I found, and I take 180 minus 64.78, I get 115.22. I need to add that now to the original given, and I get 135.72. This stayed under 180. There is room for a second triangle. So now what I'm going to do is, this is actually my angle B of the second triangle. And then I'm going to finish it up by doing the proportions to find angle C and side C. Okay, so now that we've completed the first triangle, now we have to do the check. So again, you take what you got for angle B, the first angle B, and we're going to subtract that from 180. Then what we need to do is add that number to the original angle given. And if this number that's right here is below 180, then a second triangle can be formed. So again, I'm going to be filling in the same information, and I'll put little subscripts here so I know that this is for the second triangle. So angle C, side length A, B, and C, and these are all for the second triangle. Now, all of the given is still the same. So this is 12 meters still, 31 meters. Angle A is still the same, 20.5. I just found a new angle B for the second triangle, 115.22. And now I can find my third angle of the second triangle by adding the 115.22 plus the original 20.5 that was given to me at the beginning, and then I can subtract that from 180. So actually I already just added that, 135.72. Subtract that from 180, and I could put 0, 0 here. And then my angle C is going to be 44.28. So that's going to be my second angle C. And now all I have to do is find side length C using this new angle C. So again, I'm going to do a proportion in order to find that second angle C. So I'm using the A over sine A, and then C, and this is all of this. This was still the first information, but this is now the second angle C, the 44.28. And let me go ahead and also fill in my side length for A from the beginning, which was a 12, and then my angle A from the beginning, which was the 20.5. So now I'll cross multiply, and I get the sine of 20.5 times that second side length C, and then 12 times the sine of 44.28. Divide both sides by the sine of 20.5. And then I get the side length of C from my second triangle to be 23.922, so 23.92, and these are meters. So now I have actually completed and have the information for both of the triangles. So again, once you find that first angle, you're going to go ahead and do the check. You can either choose to complete the first triangle, then go back and do the check. And then if there is room left over after you add those, if this number is less than 180, then you know that you can form a second triangle. If it's greater than 180, then there's not enough room to make a third angle.